All right, John, I think we're up and running.
Okay. Get this going. Okay, good evening. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I'm John Torres. I'm a lieutenant with the Milpitas Police Department. And today assisting me will be Captain Raj Maharaj. And what we're here to talk about will be the Milpitas Police Department Automated License Plate Reader Program, otherwise known as the ALPR program. And what we'll have for you is a PowerPoint. We'll stop throughout the PowerPoint and be able to answer some questions that you may be able to submit from the public comments forum, and we'll go from there. All right, so you may be asking yourself, why are we meeting today? Well, what we're meeting to discuss is the addition of stationary ALPRs, automated license plate readers, to our current mobile ALPR fleet that we have been using for approximately 13 years. We want input and collaboration on how the ALPR policy will be updated with the addition of stationary ALPRs. We'd like to address any privacy issue concerns and explain how stationary ALPRs will benefit the community by adding another tool to help solve crimes, impact criminal activity, and make our community safer. We're also going to talk about the data retention and data release for ALPRs. Anytime during the presentation, you may email questions to us at the email address that's on the screen, publiccomment@ci.milpitas.ca.gov, and we'll be able to answer your questions. If you want to take a few moments right now to write down the email address, but don't worry if you don't write it down before I move to the next screen, because we'll put this screen up several times during the presentation. So what is an ALPR? ALPR is a system of cameras with supporting software and server engines that capture license plate information and instantly compares the plate number to a Department of Justice database of wanted criminals or persons of interest. ALPR cameras scan thousands of license plates in the same amount of time it takes an actual person to scan a few license plates. When a license plate image is compared against a list of wanted vehicles and matched through the DOJ databases, then an alert is signaled. And the screen shows the vehicle and the reason for the alert, such as a crime, missing person, or an ongoing investigation. ALPRs automatically provide the location, date, time, and a photograph of the vehicle. The data is then uploaded to a server. ALPRs are small, they're easy to maneuver, and typically mounted on street poles, street lights, highway overpasses, trailers, or attached to police vehicles. ALPRs are commonly used in both public and private sectors, including law enforcement agencies, HOAs or homeowners associations, apartment complexes, gas stations, and parking management companies, just to name a few. These images show how stationary ALPR cameras are fixed within the community and what they look like. And as you can see, they're not too large and will not take away from the beauty of them. And we'll pause for a moment and answer any questions that have come in. And again, if you have a question, please feel free to email us at publiccomment@ci.milpitas.ca.gov. Are there any questions for us, Captain Maharaj?
Nothing at this time, John.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. The community benefits for ALPRs. So how does the community benefit from ALPRs? Well, some of the reasons, or some of the ways that the community can benefit from it is we can use ALPRs for Amber Alerts or missing people, criminal warrants, persons of interest, auto theft, crime trends or geomonitoring, criminal investigations, And we'll also discuss how modern technology has reduced ALPR system costs. Stationary ALPRs will allow our officers and dispatch staff to receive notifications of suspect vehicles entering a certain area of the city and provide officers the opportunity to capture criminals or deter criminal behavior before crimes are committed. As our officers receive these alerts in their vehicles, they can verify the information and take appropriate actions, such as an enforcement stop, contact the person, or they can access the secure ALPR database to help identify suspects. Stationary ALPRs will be another tool to assist our personnel in impacting criminal activity and reducing crime trends, and making Milpitas a safer community. Modern ALPR technology allows for systems to be run on solar power, electrical connection, and the overall size allows them to be affixed almost anywhere without excessive infrastructure costs. How will stationary ALPRs help the police department and benefit our community? Well, a lot of crimes reported to us lack suspect information or investigative leads that reduce the probability in identifying the suspect. Many of these crimes involve the use of vehicles, and having stationary ALPRs in areas where crime trends spike will allow for the capture of the license plate data to assist in investigations to identify suspects. Stationary ALPRs can be a vital tool in reducing crime and make a criminal think twice about targeting victims in Milpitas. Recent cases that have involved the use of ALPR data. There was a homicide investigation on May 28th, 2018. An attempted homicide occurred at a business on West Calaveras Boulevard, and the suspect fled prior to our arrival. Witnesses provided two variations of a license plate and mixed descriptions of the suspect's car. Detectives searched the license plate information provided by witnesses in our ALPR database and located a recent match that confirmed the license plate. Detectives were able to utilize that information to help identify the suspect. The suspect was later taken into custody the same day as he slept in the suspect vehicle. On December 6, 2019, at about 4 p.m., an unknown suspect stole a package from the front porch of a residence. The homeowner received an alert on their smart security camera and confronted the suspect as he ran to a red two-door Volkswagen convertible, which was captured on video surveillance as it drove away. Detectives contacted the victim and obtained a partial license plate, which they then searched the ALPR database and located the suspect vehicle with an image confirming the vehicle was one and the same. On December 12, 2019, detectives issued the suspect a citation for petty theft. And recently, with the help of a privately owned HOA ALPR system, our detectives were able to identify and arrest 3 violent criminals, plus take several guns off of our streets. This might not have happened without the help of the ALPR information. Again, ALPR database says help solve crimes and identify suspects that otherwise may not have occurred without the ALPR information. Our 2019 crime trends that impact the community on a regular basis are residential burglaries, robberies, commercial burglaries, auto burglaries, and vehicle thefts. And last year, in 2019, our residential burglaries were up 5%, robberies were up 7%, commercial burglaries were down 39%, auto burglaries were up 39%, and vehicle thefts were down 19%. The majority of these cases involve suspects using vehicles, and having stationary ALPRs would offer our officers another tool for solving these crimes because, as mentioned before, the majority of the time, victims and witnesses do not capture the needed information to assist in identifying suspects. As described in some of our case studies, a license plate is the key to solving crimes. Here are some pictures of our current mobile ALPR systems. The Milpitas Police Department currently has 4 ALPRs that are attached to 4 police vehicles. These vehicles capture license plate data as officers drive them throughout the city, responding to calls for service and fulfilling their other responsibilities to the community. Stationary ALPRs can consistently capture license plate data at one location and have a greater impact at specific crime trend areas. It has become commonplace in many Bay Area communities for police departments to use ALPR technology to help capture criminals, which impacts crime trends. So how does the system work? Well, officers have to log on to the current ALPR system, which creates an audit trail regarding their use and information viewed. As vehicles pass by ALPR cameras, officers will only receive alerts on wanted vehicles. The alerts include GPS location, the date and time of the ALPR read, an image of the license plate, and the image of the vehicle. This provides the officer an opportunity to verify if the plate information is correct before taking any enforcement action, if any at all. Both the mobile and stationary ALPR systems provide an instant notification to our personnel working, and allows for immediate follow-up, which could include locating a stolen vehicle, felony vehicle, or a missing person vehicle, to name a few. The ALPR database will also offer the ability to search partial plates and vehicle descriptions to conduct follow-up investigations and possibly identify suspects to clear cases. The ALPR database is used to help identify suspects, which will assist the police department in lowering crime rates and increasing the possibility to make an arrest. The utilization of ALPR cameras has become an industry standard for law enforcement. In Santa Clara County, all 13 law enforcement agencies use either mobile or stationary ALPRs. Again, having both a mobile and stationary ALPR system will allow our officers the ability to identify more suspects while impacting quality of life issues within the city, which ultimately will make Milpitas safer. At no time does the ALPR read capture personal information on the driver or the occupants of the vehicle. The utilization of ALPR cameras, again, has become an industry standard for law enforcement. In Santa Clara County, there are 13 law enforcement agencies that are using either mobile or stationary ALPRs, in addition to other police departments in the region. And on this slide, you'll see a list of the agencies within the county and nearby that are using ALPRs, both either mobile platforms or stationary platforms. And we'll pause for a minute to see if anyone has any questions. And again, if you do have a question regarding this presentation, you can email us at publiccomment@ci.milpitas.ca.gov. Are there any questions for us?
John, there is one submitted, but I think I'll read it at the end because we'll be able to cover a lot of the information that's being requested in the email with some more of the presentation. So we'll cover this one at the end of the presentation.
Okay. Let's move on to stationary ALPR cameras. The Milpitas Police Department would like to install a stationary ALPR system that can be deployed anywhere and moved as needed with approval by the chief of police or their designee when crime trends change or move to another part of the city. The ALPR system should be able to be deployed using solar power or electrical connection, and having such capabilities will provide continuous benefits to the police department in fighting crime trends while helping make Milpitas safer. Pictured here is a traditional ALPR system, which requires elaborate infrastructure with connection and maintenance costs. Modern ALPR systems operate for fractions of the cost, which includes service connection, maintenance, and upgraded equipment when newer versions are launched. We have identified a vendor for a free 60-day trial, and we will evaluate their product and determine if their product will benefit the community and our service delivery. The city of Milpitas will be testing 20 stationary ALPR cameras in and around high crime areas such as strip malls, and be able to capture license plate data on our major ingress and egress points in the city. If the Milpitas Police Department finds the stationary ALPR system as a valuable resource to the community and the department, then we will retain the stationary ALPR system. And we'll pause again for a moment. And if there's anyone that has any questions, please feel free to email us at publiccomment@ci.milpitas.ca.gov. Is there any new questions that have come in?
Nothing new at this time, John. It's the same one. And again, based on the questions, I think reading it at the end will help answer the various questions in the email.
Okay. And again, anytime during the presentation, you can email questions to us and we'll answer those questions as they come in. Now let's talk about the Milpitas Police Department's ALPR policy. The Milpitas Police Department has policy on the use of ALPRs due to our mobile ALPR system. We just wanted to go over it with you and answer any questions you might have about the policy, because it's important to us to have community input and collaborate together as we look to add stationary ALPRs. This policy will cover both mobile and stationary ALPRs. The purpose of our ALPR policy is to hold the department accountable and provide guidance for the capture, storage, use of ALPR data, and protecting privacy rights. ALPRs may be used in conjunction with any routine patrol operation, criminal investigation, canvassing areas around homicides, shootings, or other major incidents. ALPR data may contain confidential information and sometimes an image of the occupants or occupant, and the department understands the importance of the established privacy rights of the public, and these ALPRs are only to be used in public right-of-ways in areas the police have a right to be, but they will not be used for the sole purpose of monitoring individual activities. Additionally, in accordance with the California Values Act, ALPRs may not be used for the purposes of immigration enforcement. No department personnel shall access ALPR data unless authorized to do so for an official investigation. The Technical Services Division Captain is responsible for training, assuring compliance to privacy laws and access, and retention and destruction of data. We currently retain the data for 366 days, and it is purged unless it becomes, or we believe it will become, evidence in a criminal or civil trial, or it is subject to a discovery request or other lawful action to produce records. No member of the department shall operate ALPR equipment or access the data without completing department training. ALPR data is safeguarded and protected by both procedural and technological means, with system audits completed by the Technical Services Division Captain or their designee to make sure our staff adhere to the policy. The department used to store ALPR data for 5 years, and again, taking privacy concerns for the community in consideration, we altered our practice and only retained the ALPR data for 1 year. But we are constantly evaluating retention periods to make sure we are adhering to privacy concerns. And that is the end of our presentation on our current ALPR system and how stationary ALPRs will benefit the community. Again, we want to make sure we're addressing any concerns and collaborating with the community regarding the use of ALPRs. Now that you've heard our presentation on the use of ALPRs and our policy, is there any concerns or anything you think should be added to our policy? And take a moment to address any questions that have come in during the course of the presentation.
John, this is a email sent by Yamin. She sent it earlier in the day, but it had several different questions in the email, so I'll read them out to you. Can you tell me why MPD wants to implement stationary automated license plate reader technology within the city of Milpitas? Then it goes on to say, I like to know the pros and cons of having ALPR stations and designated locations of ALPR stations. Does it cost the residents? What if you're driving someone else's car? Would the ALPR technology be able to identify the actual driver? Again, those are questions submitted by Yamin.
So I believe that some of those questions have been answered through our presentation. Some of the pros of having an ALPR system within the city is, again, it helps with investigative leads. At times when there's limited information provided by witnesses or victims, the use of an ALPR may help in identifying a suspect vehicle and or a suspect, and that will provide detectives with an investigative lead so that they can move forward with an investigation and hopefully clear that by an arrest. The question about ALPR funding, whether or not that'll cost anyone in the community or residents any additional funds to be used for that. The Milpitas Police Department was one of 5 law enforcement agencies in the Bay Area that received a grant fund from the state of California for the investigation of auto burglaries and auto burglary prevention. With that fund, the ALPR program will be funded, and as we move further into the program, then that funding will be addressed during our budget process with the city council. And Raj, if you'd like to add anything to those questions, feel free to do so.
So one of the questions Yamin had was, would it capture the person actually driving the vehicle? The LPR data, the technology does not capture any information on the actual occupants or the driver of the vehicle. It's merely capturing the information on the license plate and providing the information based on the information that's in the DOJ system. So it will tell us the license plate, the location of where the read was, the date and time. It does not provide us any information on the actual driver. We don't get a name, address, or anything like that regarding anybody that's actually in the vehicle. And again, John covered the grant aspect of how we plan to possibly pay for the stationary LPRs if we like the evaluation period of the company that we're looking at with the 20 cameras. And again, like John has mentioned earlier, a lot of these crimes that happen in Milpitas are involving a use of a vehicle. And a lot of times victims and witnesses don't have the necessary information to provide us to try to follow up and identify suspects. So having the stationary LPRs positioned in certain ingress and egress locations in town will allow us to go back and possibly, if, say, for example, a witness told us it was a red car, to go back and look at red cars that may have traveled through that to see if we can identify a potential suspect. So it would be a great advantage for detectives and officers trying to identify crime and hopefully reduce crime in the city of Milpitas and eventually make Milpitas a safer community. So we had a second email from a JD Moore, and the question is, does the ALPR vendor receive any ongoing payments, fees, or other monetary benefits after the PD takes delivery of the stationary LPR devices?
Well, initially we will have a 60-day trial period with the stationary ALPRs with the vendor. After that, it becomes like any other product or service where there will be either a one-time payment for, let's say, a year of service, or maybe a monthly payment for a month-by-month service plan. And I'm hoping that that answered your question. And again, Raj, if there's anything that I missed on that, if you'd like to add to that.
Like Lieutenant Torres says, initial 60-day period will be a trial for us to evaluate the product, to see how it benefits the community, if it impacts crime trends and helps our detectives identify suspects and clear cases, and we'll move forward with that. There will be a fee, but compared to other LPR companies out there, it's greatly reduced. So it would be a reduced cost, not because they're offering us anything. That's their price point that they offer all the agencies that use their equipment. I had a second message from JD Moore. It says the California Highway Patrol only retains ALPR data for 60 days by state law. Why does Milpitas retain such information for 6 times that long? I can address this, John, if you like.
Yes, please.
So the California Highway Patrol is mandated by the state of California for retaining LPR database information for 60 days on felony investigations. And that's mandated directly to the California Highway Patrol. There's really no real state standard on how long LPR data can be retained. Like I said, originally we used to keep our data for 5 years. And again, addressing concerns of our community and how long that data was being retained, we chose to reduce that to 1 year. And again, we're constantly evaluating our policies and procedures. And as we move forward and we identify that certain things don't need to be held as long, then we may look at that and adjust those as time allows us to review that data. So again, we're constantly evaluating that, but for the California Highway Patrol, it's a state mandate that they keep it for 60 days for felony investigations, and everything else gets depleted. But unfortunately, we're not the Highway Patrol, and we don't fall under those same guidelines for this particular law. But we are consistent with all the other agencies in our region, and pretty much following other agencies in the county. We had another email from a Brian McCracken. Will this be used for traffic violations?
No, the ALPR, the stationary ALPR cameras that we're looking at testing and evaluating do not capture speed, nor will they be used for what you may be thinking is like a red light camera or anything like that. So they're not going to be capturing any data, and then that data is not going to be reviewed in order to issue any type of traffic citations or looking for any traffic violations as far as that may be concerned. And while we wait to see if there's any more questions, we'll keep this live stream going for a little bit. If we did not address your concerns or you have follow-up questions, please feel free to send us an email, and my email address and Captain Maharaj's email address are on the screen, along with the public comment email address that we've been referring back to throughout the presentation. If you send us an email, we'll email you back with a response and try to answer your question. And then also keep an eye out on our Nextdoor page with our plan to post a follow-up question and answer session on that as well. And again, we'll stay online for a little bit and see if there's any more questions that come in and answer those. And please feel free to contact us if you do have questions and you're not able to do it right now. Are there any new questions that have come in?
Nothing additional at this point, John. We'll give it a few minutes, and if we don't have any more input from our community, we'll probably end this around 7:30, but we'll give it a few minutes here. John, I just got a message from Alan Thomas. Trying to see. So the question is, will these units and their information be monitored?
So the information that comes in will be monitored in a sense is that once the data from the license plate reader is obtained, which would be the license plate number, it'll be checked against the database. And if it matches in the Department of Justice database, again, that would contain stolen vehicles, felony vehicles, vehicles for persons of interest in a criminal activity, and or missing persons, That will then send an alert to the officers out in the field and our dispatch center. Once that information is obtained, then the necessary action will be taken. But if you're asking if someone will be sitting in front of a monitor just continuously watching these things, no, because it's more efficient to let the ALPR do its work on the back end of comparing the license plate reads with the database from the Department of Justice, and then providing those alerts to dispatchers that will be working in our communication center and officers that would be out in the field.
Nothing else has come in, John, but let's give it a couple more minutes here since we got a late message here, and see if anybody else has anything else to submit. I just want to mention, like Lieutenant Torres says, if there's something we did not address, feel free to email myself directly or Lieutenant Torres, and we'll be happy to address any of your concerns.
All right, well, it looks like if we don't have any more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up this presentation. And I just wanted to thank everyone that tuned in to our presentation and everyone that submitted questions for us to answer. And again, if you didn't have the opportunity to submit a question during the course of this presentation, the email address for Captain Maharaj and myself, along with the public comment email address, is up on the screen. And don't hesitate to send a question and we'll respond back to it with an email. Again, I'd like to thank the community for watching this presentation. We appreciate your feedback and we value your feedback as well. And hopefully everybody has a great night, and thank you again.